The 1990s were a golden era for so-called sleeper cars, vehicles that looked unassuming on the outside, but hid an absurd amount of power under the hood. While some sports cars grabbed attention with aggressive aerodynamics and flashy paint jobs, these models flew under the radar, shocking anyone who underestimated their performance. Today, we're diving into this era to explore 10 ridiculously rare sleeper cars from the 90s that almost no one talks about. These vehicles might have looked like simple sedans, family wagons, or even pickup trucks, but trust me, they packed enough power to leave people absolutely speechless. Number 10, 1991, Chevrolet Lumina Z34. If you saw a Chevrolet Lumina Z34 in the 90s, you'd probably think it was just another ordinary sedan cruising down the street, but the reality was far different. This model hit a 3.4-liter DOHC V6 under the hood, producing 210 horsepower, an impressive figure for its time. Equipped with a 5-speed manual transmission, the Lumina Z34 could sprint from 0 to 60 miles per hour in about 7 seconds, putting it on par with more well-known sports cars. On top of that, its tuned suspension, well-designed aerodynamics, and dual exhaust gave it a special edge, making it a true sleeper car. Despite all these qualities, the Z34 never got the recognition it deserved. Limited production and competition from sporty sedans like the Ford Taurus SHO kept it in the shadows, turning it into a rare find. Today, spotting a well-preserved Lumina Z34 is nearly impossible, which only adds to its exclusivity. Number 9-1992, Isuzu Impulse RS. The Isuzu Impulse RS is one of those cars that seem harmless at first glance, but hide a true beast under the hood. This Japanese hatchback was one of the few sports models ever produced by Isuzu, directly competing with names like the Mitsubishi Eclipse GSX and the Toyota Celica All-Track. Powered by a 1.6-liter turbo engine and featuring all-wheel drive, AWD, it delivered 160 horsepower and surprisingly strong performance for a compact car. On top of that, Isuzu collaborated with Lotus to fine-tune the suspension, ensuring the perfect balance between comfort and sportiness. The Impulse RS was quick, well-built, and offered an exceptional driving experience. The problem? Very few units were ever sold in the United States. Estimates suggest that fewer than 800 made it to the American market. As a result, it faded into obscurity, becoming a true collector's gem. Number 8, 1994, Mazda MX-6 GT Turbo. The Mazda MX-6 GT Turbo is one of those cars that had the potential to be a big hit, but ended up being overshadowed by more popular models of its time. While Mazda was making waves with the RX-7 and the Miata, the MX-6 GT flew under the radar for many enthusiasts, despite its impressive credentials. Under the hood, it packed a 2.2-liter turbocharged engine, producing 145 horsepower and 195 pound-feet of torque. That might not sound like much by today's standards, but back then, it made the MX-6 GT a serious contender against the Nissan 240SX and the Honda Prelude. On top of that, it came with a 5-speed manual transmission and a well-tuned suspension, delivering a responsive and sporty driving experience. Unfortunately, its understated design and lack of a strong performance identity kept it from gaining mainstream recognition. Most people saw the MX-6 as just another coupe, unaware of the surprising performance it had to offer. Today, finding an MX-6 GT Turbo in good condition is incredibly rare, making it a true hidden gem of the 90s. Number 7, 1993, Pontiac Grand Prix GTP. The Pontiac Grand Prix GTP was a true sleeper among American sports sedans. At first glance, it could easily be mistaken for just another large sedan from the era, but under the hood, the story was entirely different. Powered by a 3.4-liter DOHC V6, the GTP delivered 210 horsepower, making it surprisingly quick for its size. On top of that, its high-performance tuned suspension and refined aerodynamics made it an impressive option for those seeking speed without drawing too much attention. Despite these strengths, the Grand Prix GTP never got the recognition it deserved. The model suffered from recurring mechanical issues, especially with its engine cooling system, leading many to be abandoned or scrapped over the years. As a result, finding an original, well-preserved GTP today has become incredibly rare. Number 6, 1996 Volvo 850R Wagon. If there's one car that defies all expectations, it's the Volvo 850R Wagon. When most people think of Volvo, they picture safe, conservative vehicles built for families. But this wagon hit a real beast under the hood. The 850R wagon came equipped with a 2.3-liter turbocharged engine, producing 250 horsepower and enough torque to rival the sports cars of its time. With a 5-speed manual transmission and a finely tuned sport suspension, this Volvo could shock anyone who thought wagons were just for hauling kids and groceries. Its performance was impressive, 0 to 60 miles per hour in under 7 seconds, an excellent time for a vehicle of its size. On top of that, the model had a strong presence in European touring car championships, further proving its performance capabilities. However, its understated design and lack of appeal to younger drivers kept the 850R from being treated as a true sports car. Today, it stands as one of the rarest and most sought-after Volvos by collectors, especially in the wagon version. Number 5, 1995 Mitsubishi Galant R4. The Mitsubishi Galant R4 was one of the most underrated sports sedans of the 90s. While the Lancer Evolution stole the spotlight, the VR4 remained in the shadows, despite offering seriously impressive performance. Under the hood, it packed a 2.0-liter turbocharged engine producing 237 horsepower and featured all-wheel drive AWD, making it closely resemble the Evo itself. On top of that, its 5-speed manual transmission and responsive steering made it an incredibly fun sedan to drive, especially on winding roads. The problem? The Galant VR4 never got the attention it deserved, either from Mitsubishi or from consumers. The brand was more focused on the Lancer Evolution, leaving the Galant overlooked. Its price was also relatively high for the time, causing it to be ignored by the general public. Today, the VR4 has become a rare and highly sought-after gem, especially among Japanese sports sedan enthusiasts. Anyone lucky enough to own a well-preserved example has a true 90s treasure. Number 4, 1998 Ford Contour SVT. The Ford Contour SVT is one of the most forgotten Ford models of the 90s, but those who know its story understand that it deserved far more recognition. While the SVT Special Vehicle Team badge became famous on models like the Mustang Cobra and the F-150 Lightning, few people remember that this performance label also made its way onto the unassuming Contour. Under the hood, it featured a 2.5-liter V6, tuned by the SVT team to produce 195 horsepower, a respectable figure for a compact sedan of its time. The 5-speed manual transmission and sport-tuned suspension made the Contour SVT surprisingly fun to drive, offering sharp handling and an engaging experience behind the wheel. However, its biggest problem was its looks. It closely resembled the standard Contour, meaning most people never realized they were looking at a hidden performance sedan. To make matters worse, it faced competition from flashier rivals like the BMW 3 Series and the Audi A4, causing it to fade into obscurity. Today, finding a well-preserved Contour SVT is a real challenge, but the few that remain are highly valued by those who recognize the true potential of this sleeper car. Number 3, 1999 Subaru Legacy B4 RSK. Before the Subaru WRX took over the streets and drag races of the 2000s, the brand had already experimented with sporty sedans that combined power and all-wheel drive. One of those models was the Legacy B4 RSK, a true monster disguised as an executive car. Under the hood, it packed a 2.0-liter twin-turbo engine, producing 280 horsepower and featuring Subaru's signature AWD system, making it a serious threat to German sports sedans like the BMW M3E36 and the Audi S4 of its time. On top of that, its 5-speed manual transmission and high-performance tuned suspension made it an incredibly stable and reliable machine in high-speed corners. So why didn't it gain fame in the United States? The Legacy B4 RSK was a Japan-exclusive model, and only a handful of units ever made it to North America as imports. As a result, it flew under the radar for years, while its younger sibling, the WRX, stole the spotlight. Today, finding a Legacy B4 RSK for sale is like stumbling upon a hidden gem, a rare blend of luxury, power, and performance all wrapped into one. Number 2. 1991. Dodge Spirit RT. The Dodge Spirit RT was one of the fastest American sedans of the early 90s, and at the same time, one of the most forgotten. At first glance, it looked like just another boxy, uninspiring sedan, but the moment you stepped on the gas, it became clear that this was a true performance machine in disguise. Powered by a 2.2-liter turbocharged engine, the Spirit RT produced 224 horsepower, an impressive figure for a sedan of its time. Paired with a 5-speed manual transmission, it could rocket from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 5.8 seconds, faster than many Japanese and European sports cars of the era, including the BMW M5 and the Nissan 300 ZX Turbo. Despite its outstanding performance, the Dodge Spirit RT was never a sales hit. Its outdated design, lack of marketing, and an American market still unfamiliar with sporty sedans meant that only about 1,400 units were ever produced. Today, finding one in good condition is extremely rare, but those lucky enough to own one are driving one of the greatest sleeper cars in American automotive history. Number 1. 1994 Buick Roadmaster Estate Wagon. At first glance, the Buick Roadmaster Estate Wagon looks like nothing more than a massive family hauler, built for parents who needed space for kids and grocery runs. But anyone judging this car solely by its size and retro styling would be making a huge mistake. Under the hood, this beast hid a 5.7-liter LT1 V8, the same engine found in the legendary Chevrolet Impala SS and the Corvette C4, pumping out 260 horsepower and enough torque to do effortless burnouts. And yes, this wagon was rear-wheel drive, meaning it was far more fun than it appeared. Despite its power, the Roadmaster was never taken seriously as a performance car. Its old-school looks and family-oriented appeal kept enthusiasts at bay, as most preferred traditional muscle cars. However, those who unleashed its true potential discovered a monster disguised as a station wagon, capable of shocking just about anyone. Today, finding a Roadmaster estate wagon in good condition is incredibly rare. But those who own one know they have one of the most iconic and underrated wagons of the 90s. And that wraps up our list of 10 ridiculously rare sleeper cars from the 90s that few people talk about, but definitely deserve more recognition. Did any of these models surprise you? Which one would you love to drive? Let us know in the comments below.